Welcome everyone to today's 12D Tech Forum 2024 Director's Cut webinar. My name is Lisa Stewart. This webinar series is designed to highlight some of the amazing content we wanted to include in our face-to-face event last year, but which just didn't fit into the programming. Some presentations you'll see in this series were left out entirely, and others had to be cut short because we had too much content, a great problem to have. We'll be running these webinars until that excess material is exhausted and recording them for posting on our YouTube and Vimeo channels with links through our website. Our previous webinars from this series, as well as those from our other webinar series, are available online if you missed those. During this presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen, and we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. At the end, I'll read out some of your questions to the presenter if there's time. Today's webinar, Markup and Review Tools, will be presented by Revell, a Regional Sales Manager for 12DNZ with a wealth of experience in civil engineering practice, land development, drainage and construction. Available in both 12D Model 15 and 12D View 15, the Markup and Review tools are designed to work with your existing quality control systems and are flexible enough to incorporate into your QA or BIM workflow, a digital solution to an often manual process. Dylan will take you through these tools to demonstrate how they can work for you. Over to you, Dylan.
Hello, and thank you for joining me on this 12D Model Industry Solutions webinar on the markup and review tools within 12D Model 15. There will be two parts to this webinar today. The first part will be a short PowerPoint presentation where I'll be taking you through the key points of these tools, and the second part will be showing you it in action. So what are the markup and review tools inside 12D Model? Well, they're complementary tools to fit into your existing quality control systems. We believe they should be flexible enough to be able to be incorporated into your different QA and BIM workflows. And it's also a digital solution to an often manual process. The key thing is it's available in both 12D Model 15, so the full version of 12D Model, and in 12D View. So this enables people or reviewers to be able to review designs or surveys or site inspections inside 12D View without having a full copy of 12D Model. It's also for everyone. It's not just a design check tool. Published file management 12D Synergy absolutely supercharges. So I will be writing the published files to my hard drive or my local drive, but if you imagine that if you're doing it in 12D Synergy, where you've got the tracing and tracking qualities of file management, it does supercharge this process. So we created the markup and review tools to answer these common questions. Who issued the markup or review? When did they issue it? Who has been assigned to undertake the changes to the data? When did they do this? Has this change been completed? Has the completed change been verified? And was the verified change plotted on the drawing? All this information is automatically tracked as attributes within the markup and review data. So there are three parts to the markup and review tools. There's the markup tool, a 2.5D review tool, and also a true 3D review tool. So first up, the markup tool. This is a more traditional and perhaps familiar approach to doing your markup and your quality control of, let's say, drawings. The end goal of a markup is a tracked revision on a plot. It gives you some artistic license for your scribble, so you can do rectangles, you can do lines, you can do text. And with all of the markup and review tools, I highly recommend that you use View Favorites in conjunction when you're passing the published data across. We have a traffic light colouring system, so red, orange and green. That's familiar to those people, perhaps like me, that are a little bit mature and still remember having a red pen and a blue pen and a yellow highlighter on drawings themselves before it became truly digital. The second part is the review tool. This is very simple to create and use even on a Windows tablet. So if you've got 12D View out in the field and you're using it in a tablet and you want to quickly trace and start tracking some reviews, you can do this simply using the review tool. This is more geared towards a BIM digital solution as opposed to the markup, which end goal is a plotted revision on a plan. You don't get any artistic license with a review, you get a rectangle. But it is a very smart rectangle, as you'll see. Again, highly recommend you use all of the markup and review tools in conjunction with view favorites, and I'll be showing you how to do that in the demonstration. And the third and final tool is the 3D review tool. This is a true spatial issue location tool, so you're going to get the X and the Y and the Z coordinates of where you've identified a potential problem within the data. You can use it on your 3D view data to clearly identify the location of an issue. And these 3D markup locations are published and reported with other markup reviews, or they can be published separately for BIM processes. Finally, use it in conjunction with 3D view favorites in this stage. There are common tools to all of the reviews and markups. We have automatic tracking via attribution of the objects. So this means that you can just carry on and do whatever you need to do, and all the tracking is being done in the background automatically. We have status gateways to understand where in the workflow it is. And this data can be shared between 12D Model and 12D View, or between projects via the publishing. We decided on the publishing method because whether you were using 12D Model or 12D View, in 12D View you can't save the project or save the data, it's purely a viewing tool, but we wanted to give users the ability to be able to do their markup and reviews in the viewer and publish that out so it can be consumed in 12D Model. And we enhance the information with user attributes on the objects, as you'll see. So these attributes are retained in all BIM exports, so they basically belong with the data itself. Now the status gateways, which are common to all of the tools. They allow you to understand where in the workflow this particular markup or review is. There's 4 common steps. There's unassigned or a created markup or review. Then you can mark that as in progress, so that's underway. Once that change has been completed, you can mark it as completed. And then finally, someone checking that completed data change is adequate, they can verify that change. And for the markups in particular, you can assign a revision for plotting. Big important thing is you cannot skip gateways, so you can't go from directly in progress to verified, it has to pass through the appropriate gateways, but you can also roll back. There's common reporting tools. Attribute tables can be used inside 12D Model or 12D View to dynamically view the location of the markups or reviews. An HTML report can be produced, and this might be handy for having a paper copy or going into a meeting and getting an idea and sharing with everybody else how many changes have not been done, or which changes have been done and completed but not been verified, and so on and so forth. These tools again are available for both 12D Model and 12D View. As all the data is stored as object attributes, you could potentially create your own export formats or your own macros to do custom reporting yourself. So let's see it in action inside 12D Model. Okay, for the demonstration itself, I have 2 12D Model projects open. The first project I have is a typical design project where we've got some 3D design data as well. And the second project is more of a survey / construction, maybe a site walkthrough project, just to reiterate the fact that this is not just a design tool inside 12D. So first off, I'm going to start with the design project. Now in both 12D Model and 12D View, the new markup tools can be found under main menu project markup. This is a one-stop shop for all of your markups. So whether you're doing a review or markups or combination of all of the above, this can be done within one single panel. When you first open up the markup, it's really important to go into the markup settings, and it allows you to take you through the different settings and the data that's going to be produced when you're using the tools themselves. There's 4 tabs. The first tab is the string tab. The model postfix, you don't actually have to put in your own postfix for the model names. You'll see all of the model names are automatically produced, but if you do want something individualized, you can enter something other than markup. The color of the markups themselves, I'm going to leave that as the default, red 248. So when I plot that out onto a PDF, it's going to come through as a nice red color or green color or so on. You can override the weight value. So if you want the markups to be a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner on the view or on your plots. And the Z value is if you're going to be exporting this data to a BIM federated model or some other 3D checking tool, you do want to give it some sort of valid Z value so it'll be spatially within the area that you're looking at. So for me, I'm going to set a default Z value of 40 for this demonstration data. The text is where you can choose your text style for both the reviews and the markup text tool. I'm going to start with a data or textile data favorite. And the text units allow you to determine, is this going to be a world size text or a paper size text device or screen. I pretty much exclusively use the paper size units because when I plot that onto a PDF or some other format, maybe via a multi-page plot sheet or an MPS file, I want that to look the same in all different viewport scales. So I'm going to set my text units to paper. And the size and the offset allow you to very quickly override these. These will be populated in the panels as you'll see, but I'm just going to have a default text size of 3mm high and a small offset from my review area rectangles. The 3D settings, the first one is the 3D to 2D width. So we produce both the rectangle and a 3D object with the 3D reviews, and you can determine or have your Goldilocks number for the size depending on the data. If you're working in a very small area, obviously you're going to want a smaller number. So for the area I'm going to be working on later on, I'm happy with a 3D to 2D width of 2 meters, and my 3D marker size, I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. And the plot tab is for when you're producing your revision letters. You can override the size and the offset. I'm going to leave this one blank, so I'll just use the defaults when I come to making a markup revision. So I'm going to set those properties, finish, and they will be valid for this particular markup session. And the next thing we're going to go through is the markups themselves. So your markups are your potentially traditional or more familiar tools where you can scribble something on top of a plan, or in this case, scribble it digitally. But it is doing some intelligent things in the background. There's a range of different markups you can use. I'll run through a few of these, starting with a simple rectangle. So all of the rectangle options inside the markups are particularly a 3-point rectangle, so it's going to require me to put in 3 points so I can have a rotated rectangle. And as soon as I produce my first markup, the tracking starts. So the model names is the first place you can start tracking who did it, when and where. So if I go to the model list that's been produced, I have a markup object tree group with a markups subgroup, and then as the markups run through different particular dates, it'll automatically put the system date and the username of the person that has produced that markup. So that's the first start of the tracking. At any time, if I want to get some more information on markups or reviews in particular, in the Setup tab, I can come to the Inquire button, and this will just pull up your normal 12D string inquire, but it'll pre-populate the inquire style to markup and review. So if I pick on any markup or review items, I'm going to see not only the model name, but I'm going to start to see the appropriate attributes that are on that markup itself. And so I can see at a glance where in the gateways or the status that markup is. So to carry on my artistic scribbles, let's go and have a look at just placing a text markup. You might want to highlight something with a little bit of text. So clearance. You can, at the stage, override the default settings for the text data. And the text that I've produced, because I chose a paper unit, as my plotting scale changes, or in this case, if I have a look at the view scale, that text is always going to remain that 3mm high, regardless of what plotting scale that I choose to plot that out. Your more traditional revision bubble is the third one along, so I can draw my revision bubble. You can have a rectangular revision bubble as well. Again, it's a rectangle, so that's 3 points it's requiring for your rotated rectangle. And if I want to draw my attention to a particular point on the screen, I can just use a pointer or a pointing arrow and maybe have some text placed on the end of that. You've got the ability to have a line string, which is a string with more than 2 points. So you can highlight something else, draw something the way that should be. And with all of these options within the markup, you pretty much want to keep an eye on where you are in the status, because the commands are cancelled, or to get back to the markup panel, it's escape on the keyboard itself. So if you're ever stuck and you're not too sure where the markup window went, just hit escape and it should pop back up again. We have anti-clockwise and clockwise clouds. This allows you, if I do a clockwise cloud, to essentially draw my own odd or irregular shaped cloud. And again, to complete that cloud and to close it off, if I just hit escape on the keyboard, that's going to close that cloud up for me. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I need at least 4 items so I can take you through the status gateways. All of these models and all of the attributes are being automatically added in the background, so it's giving me unique model names for each of those markup items that I'm producing. And if you would like to potentially add some intelligence to these markups, you might have a specification document that you want assigned to that data itself. You can add your own user-defined attributes. If I open the attribute panel inside 12D and go and have a look at the attributes of one of these markups that have been put together, you can see it's got a markup information group that's already been created, and all the attributes as we go through, the status text, and anything that we add are going to be added automatically. But if we wanted to add something manually, an extra piece of information, say for instance if I went up to the top here and I wanted to add a custom attribute, we'll call it information, and the text attribute. And what I can do is I can actually put in hyperlinks or synergy links or whatever I want to do. If I go into Explorer and find a file itself, I right click on that and go copy as path. And if I paste that path text inside the 12D model attribute viewer, at any time someone can come in here and I can absolutely launch that document itself. And if I apply that and finish, now pretty much I am the reviewer. I've finished doing my reviews and I'm ready to publish that file out so another 12D model user can go and start updating that data based on my reviews. And as I mentioned in the PowerPoint slides, the reason we've gone with this workflow of publishing a file to transfer between projects was pretty much because somebody could do the reviews or the markups in 12D view, and then somebody who's actually got the full model of 12D model can go and make those changes. They can read in the published data, and also tracking and tracing where those markups were saved, what status they're in, is pretty much important. So at any time you can publish your markup or review data in the Publish tab. It does have a rule that the file name needs to begin with the project name, so again tracing exactly which data was used in this review. And I've also got a file type, and I can choose what I want to export. I can export just markup, started. I'm going to do everything, and then later on in the demonstration I'll show you just exporting just a proportion of those. So I'm going to put in a file name here. I'm going to call this a design review. And I'm going to keep that text because when it comes to my favorites or my positions, I particularly like to have the same name for both the published file and any favorites and any data exports that you've made for people to be able to review that. Let's say, for example, an IFC file. You can delete the objects from the file. That's the default. 99 times out of 100, you're probably going to want to do that. And you do want to overwrite the file rather than have multiple instances of the same markups within the file itself. So if I go export, I as the reviewer have finished my job, and then I've passed that on, let somebody know that the review has been done, and then they need to come and action those items. So we can imagine that we are now the designer or the drafter or whatever you want to be called, and we've been issued a published markup file, and we're going to go and change that. So we'll have a look at the importation process. So I'm now the designer. I've put my designer's hat on. I've been issued a published markup file, and I need to read that into my particular 12D model project and go and start making those changes and adjusting the status gateways. So on the Setup tab, if I can import that published markups, it does remember the last one that you've imported. And if I go to the design view, I want that added in automatically. And if I import that, that's going to turn on all of those published markup data so I can start working on it. So I'm going to go and say check the clearance. I'm going to say it's okay. So then we'll take you through the status gateways. So the status gateways for the markups is under the status tab. The gateways for reviews and 3D reviews are all on that tab itself. So the different status gateways, you'll be notified, it will add objects, but the biggest thing is you're going to see it change color, something's going to happen. So let's say I've got this underway, it's in progress, so I can mark this particular markup as in progress, and you'll notice that that automatically changes to an orange color, and it also adds the attributes of who marked that in progress and when. So to take you through all of the 4 gateways, I need at least 3 of those in progress, so you would be doing this not so quickly as me. So I've assigned the status gateway for 3 of those markups as in progress. I'll mark one as completed as well, which will change it to a green color. And if I mark this one as complete, a green color. So this would happen over time, obviously, rather than straight away. And then I've made the change, I've issued the data, and then the verifiers come back and he said, yep, that change is absolutely fine. So I can actually mark the status of this particular markup off as verified. And that will go and change that to a darker green, and it will also fill in the color. It's probably a little bit hard for you guys to see on the screen. But the most important thing in the background to both the original markup, which is published, and the plot, which is not. So you see, if I look at the attributes under the markup information, it gives it a revision ID, and it tells you who issued that revision. When I publish the markup data, the plots are not published. The plots remain within the project themselves, because the whole idea is they are then going to be essentially plotted onto a paper or a virtual paper copy. So they're in their own model, they're not exported within the publishing itself. And this is simply a vertex symbol, so if that's default positions in the way, I can just inside 12D model go to my edit symbol tools. It's a vertex symbol, so if I type V on the keyboard, pick the vertex and the appropriate data. I missed it the first time. My accept button's having a bit of a sticky day. There we go. I can simply move that vertex symbol out of the way and put it into a position that's a lot nicer essentially for producing my plot. Okay, so that's the status gateways for the markups and essentially the markup procedure itself. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a different project. We'll take you through the review tools, and also reiterate some of the data and the processes that go along with reviews. Right, I'm just going to open up my other 12D model project. This is our survey project, and I'm going to put on my surveyor or constructor hat and take you through something slightly different. Again, to reiterate that this is not just a design checking tool, it's a tool that can be used in all sorts of different weird and wonderful ways. So in this brand new project, I'm going to fire up my markup. As I said, the first thing that you want to do with the markup is you want to, I'll just move that out of the way, is go into the settings and double check the settings that you've got. So this is a slightly different position. I'm going to have a different Z value here. I'm going to make that 30, which is more in line with the survey data that I'm looking at. The text, I will set my text size and style again, maybe 3 and 1. They're my favorites, as if you can't tell. And I'm not going to do a 3D review in here, so I'll just use those as the defaults. So if I set that, I'm ready to go and have a look at the reviews. So the markups and the reviews, I would call them 2.5D. They're not 3D, so you can have a height on them. They're more along the plans, but as I'll show you, you might want to export these into a federated model, and you can do so as long as you've got some sort of a 2.5 dimension, so you've got a height value on that. So let's go and have a look at the reviews. So the reviews, you don't get a artistic license. They are a rectangle, and they're produced more in line for a purely digital transfer format. So you can create a review and then you can run through the same review status gateways, and you'll notice that there's no revision button on the reviews because the end goal is not to have something plotted on a plan. So if I go and create my first review, they're slightly different, but they're a little bit smarter. So if I put a rotated rectangle there, okay, it'll automatically pop up with, I want you to enter some text. So maybe you'll say this is, reseal area, and go enter. And a review is a little bit smarter. You get your rectangle, but it's automatically going to put some vertex text on there with what's the date, who did it, and what the comment was, so you can see that at a glance, as opposed to having to go through the inquire tools. So I need at least 4 reviews, so I can go and take you through all the status gateways. So if I produce another review here, and maybe say I'm walked along the road, I'm doing a site walkthrough, and I'm going to say this culvert is blocked. And then I'll walk further along the road, and I might want to say, sorry, my enter key is getting very sticky here. Okay, maybe check site distance. And as I go out a little bit further, maybe my final review might be up here. And that might be a warning to people that that's going to be overhead power lines. Okay, so I needed at least 4 reviews to be able to take you through the status gateways. So the reviews work in slightly different ways. If I then go through the gateways of the reviews, they're going to do something a little bit different and something a little bit more visual. They will change the colors to the traffic light systems as normal. So if I go and mark this review as in progress, okay, it'll change it to an orange, but it's also going to put that vertex text so I can visually see what status that is in. So if I go and mark that as in progress, that one is in progress, so I can have a mixture of everything. I'll mark this one as complete. That one is complete. And I need a final status gateway, so this one's going to be marked as verified because I can't skip gateways. Okay, you'll see that that will change that to a darkling. It's a little bit hard to see at the moment, so I'll toggle the rasters off. Okay. And that will be a filled dark green rectangle. Now, with the markups and the reviews, you can always backtrack. So if you said that's completed, no, it hasn't been completed, you can always regress any of your markups or reviews. So if I regress that review, okay, it's going to remove the attribute information, it's going to change it back to in progress. Okay. So you can regress your markups or your reviews. So again, if I look at the model names, slightly different model object tree. This comes under markup reviews. Again, it's got the date and it's got the name of the user that has been taking through and cycling those reviews or issued the review itself. The info panel on the markup and reviews. If I go through this, you can see this has gone through a number of gateways for the review. It'll give me the comment and who was it assigned by, what's the progress, who marked as off completed, and that is all stored as attributes. And there's a new functionality within the version 15 string attributes editor, which allows you to launch or view links or hyperlinks or other files. So I'm just going to pop into my file explorer that I have for this project itself, and I have what we'd call a site photo there. And I'd like to add that site photo along with my review, so I'm just going to right click on that file, comes up, and go copy as path. And then if I head back into 12D and just edit the attributes of this one here, and I'm going to add, maybe I'll add it under the group. Okay, we'll call this site photo. It's a text attribute, and I'll paste that path in. And then within the new updated attributes editor, I can just launch that at any time. So it's just popped up on the other screen. So, you can take your site photos or your other documentation or your specifications and enhance that data by adding it to the review objects themselves. So 2.5D, yes, I do want to save the changes. So this data is pretty much in 3D. So if I add in all of the markup reviews, I'll turn off the tin to make it a little bit easier to see. And let's say go and change the background color to white. So this might be, as somebody sees that in a different review piece of software. So all of the attributes, they are spatially got some Z values on them, and this might be the stage where you're going to export these to your federated model and you're going to pass across this review information. So I'm just going to go up to my BIM export and export the IFC. I'll export everything in that view. And obviously with superstrings, you might have seen in some of our other BIM videos or BIM training courses, some federated model data cannot read strings. So just a tip for people, I'll untick export segments, and I do want to export as tiny pipes. So if I'll give it a file name, and I'll call this site walk through. I'm going to copy that because I'm going to use that for a lot of other stuff. So if I then open that IFC file that I've just created, so open. Just to give you an idea of why we did it as an attribute. It's just opening in the background. Open it up in a federated model viewer of some sort. And if I go and have a look at there's our review information. Click on that review information near, and all of the attributes will go through. So they are stored with the data itself, even including that hyperlink for that site photo. So just as an aside, you can be using this as purely digital data as well as publishing itself. Sorry, move that out of the way. So I've completed my reviews. Let's say I was doing this inside 12D view instead of 12D model and maybe doing it in tablet out on site. I need to now pass across the results of the review or the site walkthrough, and so it can be consumed by other people using the markup option inside 12D. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want somebody to be able to know what I was seeing, where I was seeing it, and that's where a favorite or a view favorite comes in. So I've got an IFC file. I might also want to create a plan view favorite inside 12D. That's the yellow star on the view, and I can create edit a favorite file, and I'm going to give it the same name as what I gave the IFC file, and I'll give the published file the same name so people will be able to see wherever that's stored. that is all of the same status, all the same generation. So I'm going to write that. And for those of you who don't know what a view favorite does, if I then go and turn some data off, turn those models off, its view favorite can save the position and the models and all the information. So if I zoom to extents, somebody's read this favorite in, they want to know what I was looking at, I can simply come up to the yellow star and load up that view favorite, and it restores essentially what that person was seeing when they were doing the markup or reviews. And I'm going to publish this out, but this time I'm going to publish it out to not the working folder. So you can see the warning that you get. Let's say you're browsing and you're saving this in 12D Synergy to start your file tracing and your rollback capabilities. So I'm going to go and publish this data. I'm going to export the file, but this time I'm going to go and browse to a location that's different from the working folder. So I've got a folder up here called markup data. I'm going to give it the same name as everything else. The first time I hit export, it's going to give me a warning. It's going to say, actually, this file name must start with the project file name. Again, for tracing, so somebody knows the project that was open, where the markups were done. So if I go update right, what that's done is it has published all of that data, but it's automatically put the project name in the file name that I typed in. To import a published markup file, I'm just going to pop back to my design job. Under the Setup tab, you can select the import options, import the published markups. Now I'm going to import this into the survey view and go and browse to that file that we've just created, which is under the markup data folder, the site walkthrough, and I'm going to import that into the survey views, and I'm going to put all the data. If I select import, you'll see that that's imported that data, and I can also use the view favorite and load that into the project to see exactly what that person was looking at. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take you through the 3D reviews and all of the tools associated with the 3D reviews. Before I get into the 3D view reviews, just a bit of a recap. Under the setup, under the settings, our 3D settings determine the size of the 2D to 3D rectangle and the actual 3D marker size. So just to recap, they were set there. So if I go back into reviews, and I'm going to place a few 3D reviews. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the tin just so we can select things a little bit easier. And I'm going to zoom on in and say, well, where were the problems? So I'm going to place my first 3D review. It is a true 3D spatial review, so wherever I snap into the 3D view, it's going to come up and want me to put in a comment. So I'm going to put Move Island. Move manhole to Island. Okay. And you'll see that that's placed a 3D marker and a 3D rectangle in that location. Now I need at least 4 to be able to do this, so I'm going to go in and place some more there, just put some random things in. This is with curb. 2 more. One under there. So that one move. And 1 more, maybe down here. Say check cover. Okay, so I have 4 3D markup reviews. Now these are stored in a different model group. They are stored under the markup 3D group, again with the date and the username of who did those reviews. And then you can start passing those through the status gateways, as with both the other markup and the review tools. You use the same tab, the same status markups or status gateways as the normal 2.5D reviews. So I'm just going to go and mark a few of these up to different statuses. And just do a refresh on those ones. You'll see it follows the same traffic light colors. Verify that one. And of course you would be doing this over time. You wouldn't be doing it all in a rush as per a webinar. So there's our 3D reviews with their different statuses, and we're going to take you through the process of publishing these 3D reviews. So this is done in the Publishing tab, and before I go ahead and create the publishing file or the published markup file, I'm going to save away a view favorite and also a view position so people can tell exactly what I was looking at and where I was looking. So to create a view favorite, I'm just going to middle mouse button this time over the yellow star, and I'm going to create a view favorite called intersection review, and I'm going to copy that because I want that file name for all of the associated files that come with this review. I'll write away that view favorite, and I also want to do a view position. So if my little mouse button over the position tab, I'm going to give that the same name and select right, and then go finish. And if you're not familiar with what a view position, a plan view position, or a section, or a perspective view position is, I can zoom right out, and then I can come back in at any time and apply that position file, which will take me back to exactly where that data was saved. So I've got the associated files that may be needed. I might also write out a 12DA file, but I'm all ready to go and publish these 3D reviews or markups. Okay, this time when I go to the publish option, I'm going to give it that file name that I saved, and this time I only want to export the 3D reviews themselves. And if I hit export and update that file, because it must start with the file name, that's gone away and saved or published away those 3D reviews. And of course, for the next tools I want to show you, I need those back in again. So I'm going to go and import that file into the 3D view, import just the 3D reviews, and then go import so I get the data as we were before. In the last part of the webinar, we'll be taking you through some really handy tools that we've put within the markup options to allow you to very quickly find, glance, and even report out the markups, the reviews, and the 3D reviews themselves. These associated tools can be found in a couple of places. First off, we'll have a look at the Publishing tab. I may need to review markups or reviews or 3D reviews, and rather than just an inquire or looking at the attributes, we have some tools here which you can view the statuses in a tabular format. So if we go right back to the original design view that we had, and I'll zoom out a little bit, where we had our markups, and I'd like to have a look and review the markups within the project. I can use the markup table. You do need to hit refresh to go and populate that table, and you can see here it's got all of the markups that are within the project. It's got their statuses and their including the revisions, and as I cycle through in a plan view, you'll see that that will highlight up those, so I can very quickly see which ones are still to be done or need to be progressed. So you can have a markup table. If we look at the reviews, which was in our survey view, there is also a review table. Same thing, hit refresh. That will allow you to cycle through where those are and what the statuses are. And finally, in a plan view for the highlight, in my design view, I'm just going to go and add my 3D review models. So when we look at the 3D review table and go refresh, the reason we went with both a tri-mesh and a rectangle for each of those 3D reviews is when you're wanting to highlight and zoom around these, it will do so on the rectangle as opposed to the pyramid or the tri-mesh. So you'll see as I place through there, okay, it is highlighting those rectangles themselves, verified ones. And you can sort the table, and it's just a very handy feature to go along if you want a global snapshot view of where all the status of the markups and the reviews are. If I want a plotted report, let's say I need to go into a meeting and go through a Monday morning meeting on what still needs to be done, we give you the opportunity or the facility to create an HTML report. Now the HTML report will report out everything, markups, reviews, and 3D. And if you don't have any of that particular flavor, then it obviously will just be empty. So in the Publish tab, I'm going to go to Generate a Report. You can call the report file name anything that you like. you'd probably call the report file name the same as any other associated files you're exporting, and you can put in a little bit of description. So I'll put this for the webinar, generate that. So that's a HTML report that is saved in this case with the project, or I could have browsed that and saved that in a different location if I wanted to. And if I go ahead and open up that pre-formatted HTML report, you'll see it gives you the file name, that description that I've just typed in, a date, and then it'll take you through step by step unassigned markups, in progress markups, completed markups, and down the bottom it gives you a conglomerated table of all of those, and that conglomerated table is also color coded, so you can see pretty quickly, hey, these changes that were supposed to happen have not happened, or this change has not been completed yet. And so this file contains the markups, the reviews in the same format, and also the unassigned and assigned 3D markups. And you'll notice that in the report file it actually gives you the X, the Y, and the Z location for those 3D markup areas. So you can either view it in a table or you can view it in a completed formatted report. And I finish that panel. And then the last tools I'm going to show you is if somebody needs to see inside 12D, I just really quickly need to see, hey, what are all of the markups that haven't been reported as progress? And that would potentially happen as soon as you read in the published file. So we've put that in the setup tab, and it's these three options here. This will create a view or populate a view that's already been created. So you can see at a really quick glance, hey, let's have a look at the markup statuses, the 3D reviews, and the reviews. So if I go and have a look at the markup view, and I just want to see all of the unassigned markups, that will create a view for me. I'll put it nicely away to the side, and that will just add all of those markups, or filter those markups that are only in an unassigned state. Do the same thing for the 3D reviews. Let's go and have a look at the verified ones. There's only one of them, so it's not going to be that flash. And a plan view, and the reviews as well. Let's go and have a look at the in progress reviews. And that'll just spatially turn all those on, so you can then go and see exactly which ones have yet to be done. So that's the finish to our webinar on the 12D model markup and review tools. Thank you very much for attending and watching, and I'm happy to take any questions further.
Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Dylan. And yes, we've had a couple through. So Andrew was asking, can you edit the markup rectangles and squares?
Oh yeah, they are literally they are superstrings or normal 12D strings with vertices. So if you wanted to change the shape, you absolutely could. And because the attributes are just on those superstrings or trimeshes, you could make them look whatever you look like, and then just carry through the normal status gateways.
Great. And can you do review attribute changes in 12D view?
Oh yes. Attribute changes, yes, you can. So if you're in 12D view, like putting that site photo in, because you're then going to publish that file, it's not saved with the 12D view project, which you can't save any data in the database. Any attributes that you modify or you change on those objects, when you publish it, they will be exported out with the published file.
Okay, wonderful. And actually on 12D view, we had one through from Dave who said, sorry, I'm a new user, but he wants to know how you get the 12D view.
You can get a link to 12D view from the 12d.com website. It's under software. I'm pretty sure it's under software updates. There will be a link there to the 12D view, and similar to the 12D model, there'll be a PDF explaining how you use that. And for those of you who haven't used 12D view before, it's free. Download. You don't need a dongle. You can use existing licenses for, I guess, reporting purposes, but it doesn't take a license. And if you want to do things like import any file type, it's basically a like 12D model, you can create views, you can profile them, you can inquire them, and of course you can do the markup in them. But then when you close it down, it does not save anything that you've changed in that particular project. So you could do it in a brand new project, or you could open another project that's already got, the multiple models and tins shared in for review purposes, and it doesn't stuff up that project itself. You close it down and it leaves no trace, but you can absolutely open existing 12D projects.
Okay, and there's one here from Nicole. Does it work with 12D Synergy?
Well, 12D Synergy is the file management. So yes, it does. So when I'm publishing the file, when I'm outputting the file, what I would do is I would obviously browse through to a Synergy location, save that published file, and then you've got all of the amazing tools within 12D Synergy to track who did that file, what version it's in, and you can then read or import that published markup file directly out of any Synergy links that you like. So yes, it does work with 12D Synergy, as 12D Synergy is I guess, a data management or a file management.
Okay. Now I've got a couple of long questions here from Dean, so I'm not going to do this justice, but I'm going to try to explain them. So you can end up with hundreds of comments. Is there a way to do a review all or a complete all, rather than going through each comment one by one?
Review all. There's no. I'm going through them, one by one, because that's typically how you'd work. Someone would go, okay, I need to move this curb over by 2 meters. They would then take the change. It might take them 10 minutes, might take them half an hour, and then they would mark that off as, complete. There's no way to globally select a whole lot of data and say these are all complete, or take them through the status gateways, as it were.
Okay.
But a good idea.
Yeah.
Idea if your designer can magically change everything all in one go within a couple of minutes.
And further to that, on the 3D review,
Yes.
every time he puts a new markup, it comes with the previous comment. Can it be made empty for every new comment?
Oh, that's a great idea. I guess we're trying to save time, so definitely take that one on board and take it back to the developers and have that as a default. If you want them blank rather than having to type it in, I think that's a thoroughly good idea.
We could put a wish in our wishing well.
Absolutely,
with the
we
programmers, yeah. And we'll just do one more live today, I think. So it was just a one about what do we need in 12D model to make this run? Like, do we need special modules?
No, it is part of the base module. It is applicable. So as long as you're using 12D model version C1P and above, so the current version is C1R. C1R, we brought in the 3D markups. C1P didn't have the 3D markups. So yeah, pretty much as long as you've got C1P and above, you install 12D model or 12D view and you go straight to the project markup option. It's part of the base module.
And that's as long as your license is on maintenance, I think.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. So yeah, but no extra modules. That's good. Okay, well, I think we'll leave the Q&A there, and I'll just email you through the last couple of questions, Dylan. So thank you very much for that presentation today, and thank you everybody else for attending. The recording of today's webinar will be available in coming days through the webinars page on our website and on our 12D Model YouTube and Vimeo channels. Keep an eye on our emails and social media for details of future webinars, including another one by Dylan on drainage 2D analysis coming up on the 13th of March. So I'll be, we've got the link up to that on the website, and I'll be sending out an email about that soon. And if you haven't seen it yet, the dates for the 2026 12D Tech Forum have now been released, and there's a special discount available for a limited time. So check out 12dtechforum.com for details of that one as well. And if you need to contact us in the meantime, you can always jump on our website. That concludes today's presentation. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars.